I haven't, I guess we do take it.
Yeah, there's three of us.
This is the agreement, this is the resolution.
Not Sean, I don't know.
Clayton's not coming.
Yeah, he's out of
Out of the country, must be on a trip.
the
Because.
White Council saying about it. But here, I think Sean's coming in.
Yeah, you can just leave this.
There's you.
There she is. Hey, you didn't hear the Jeep.
I'm done long as we talked about it all.
Not today.
So I talked to him today.
Good,
and
is
said
it still
that-
me? No.
Switch to
Right.
Oh, we can call
Just to make sure.
them. Right.
I was telling Jeremy, I saw Sean at Ace
Hey,
today. Rob needed me to come and help him. He said he helped me a couple of years back and
Yeah,
helped. He said, I'll always help coconut more. You're in.
you're in.
I need help.
We'll take it.
Do you know his house firm?
I heard that.
Sean from Ace, is that who you're talking about?
Yeah.
His house firm. He's homeless right now.
He said he used to live in France. I don't know where he lives now.
I think you know, we,
Yeah, we don't have
He,
to.
well, he's not living anywhere. He's in a hotel now. But
yeah.
if coffee, do they find out?
Hey,
Tom
I don't
Connell.
know.
He is an electrician,
I just-
It'll,
and the city's aware of it.
it'll be an
That's
electrical
what I was
fire.
saying, you could still bid.
And it-
Fire, if they can't find a cause,
Probably because they took out most of the,
No, not if you have.
what's that thing, the roof?
Yeah.
That thing above us?
Right.
Yeah, so.
Wow.
Anybody heard?
Sounds like a bad one. Yeah, Clinton wasn't coming.
Remember he's out
Oh,
of the
that's
country.
right, he's gone.
Start whenever you're ready.
Don't mind me, I have no idea what's going on. All right. We are recording.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Friends, City Council meeting Thursday, March 9th, 2023. We'll start with a pledge of allegiance. Shall we lead us in the pledge?
I
Pledge
pledge
allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Item number 1, check register.
So I kind of changed that a little bit, did you notice that?
Which part?
So the check register and
And
your,
approval of minutes?
yeah, with just one motion now.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I like that, I think.
And like a lot of other cities are doing it that way, so.
Nothing wrong with that.
Simplify.
One thing you may see on the check register is a bill for Roto-Rooter and one to Twin D. I think it's Twin D, is that what it is? Those are, we had an issue with the sewer at Lonnie Bates' house. He hired Roto-Rooter only to discover that the problem was actually in the city main.
Okay.
So we
I was
We
gonna ask
absorbed-
about the Lonnie Bates.
We absorbed that bill because it was, he paid for it, but it was
Okay,
actually our problem. And then we had the other company come and vacuum out the line where we had the clog. So that's what those two things are.
that was my only question. I'll make a motion to pass and pay the check register for, let's see, February 9th to March 9th.
Do you want to add the minutes?
Oh, and
So I
yes,
changed it to all.
you did that, I read that too, and the minutes for the last meeting, I don't remember the date.
February.
February 6th.
February.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes both of those. Next, public comment. There's only one member of the public here. Do you have any comments, Sam? All right, we'll close the public comment. And we'll go to a public hearing. on the fee and rate ordinance, which should be in Dropbox. This is, we're just updating some of those fees and things in the fee and rate ordinance. I'll let Katie go through.
Actually, I'll go through.
Yeah,
Okay,
Suzanne's
Suzanne's
gonna talk
gonna
through
go
this.
through.
I'll pull it up here, but she can talk through
So-
the changes.
The first change is on page 2, on the deposit required, an application for standard plans. We changed that from $200 to $1,000.
Where we-
Deposit.
Yeah,
On
the
page
deposit,
two.
$1,000 deposit. So we're changing that because oftentimes it doesn't cover our costs, and that $1,000 is gonna be. It's just a
It's
deposit,
applied,
so it's gonna be applied anyway, it's part of what they're gonna have to pay to begin with, they're at the end of the deal anyway, so it doesn't, it's not an additional $1,000, if that makes sense.
They pay it anyway.
Sorry, go ahead.
now on page 3, we changed it from modular manufactured homes from 100 to 500.
Oh,
And the
sorry.
other one that's any other permit, we went from 75 to 250. And then on that same page, under 1.1.8, the fire hydrant meter use, we've had some problems and issues with that, and we made changes there. On the security deposits, $2,000 now. And then the fee's $10 per day plus the 0.25 per gallon of water. And we took out fee for every 1,000 gallons of water taken will be charged.
Okay, just clarify, so, we can rent the fire hydrant?
Well, so it's,
I mean, I know we had that one customer that wanted to fill their pool with it, and we declined that, but.
well, and in theory, they could do this, right? So
Okay.
this is basically like, mostly like a construction company who's building roads or keeping.
Oh,
dust
to fill
control.
their
So they're
trucks
filling
up?
their water
Okay.
tank for their water trucks. So we have a meter that they basically, the deposit, the $2,000 deposit, security deposit basically is to cover that. And then they pay for the, water.
The
as
actual
they
water
use
coming
it.
out. Okay, all right,
We
thanks for
changed that
clarifying
because
that.
the $2 wasn't even covering.
Yeah, so in
Okay.
theory, someone who
Yeah.
wanted to fill a pool could come rent the meter. I
Okay.
don't know if we've ever done that or that we would, but. in
Somebody's
theory-
trying to be, at the old rate it'd be cheaper, the new rate it'd be more money.
Right,
Than fill up your house.
so,
And then we made changes on if they provide their own meter, 500 to 1,000. And then they'll be charged the same per gallon of water.
and the .025 gallon, that's just the standard rate for water, is that what we?
No, it's, we checked around with the different cities, see what they charged. Cause if you remember for the $30, you get 15,000 gallons.
Right.
And the first one for $1, you get, it's $1 per thousand for the next 5,000. We're just charging this for any water that they use. So before, for 2,000 gallons, we get $2.
Right.
Now we get $20.
Right.
So it's covering our costs more, producing the water.
Yep, I like it. Cover our costs is a good deal.
Yeah, and then we have the fee
This would be.
if they use it without permission. If a contractor pulls up and just starts filling it, we can charge them $1,000.
Okay, because we did have that problem one,
Yes.
Yeah.
a few years ago.
So that penalty's now been added.
Okay.
Next,
Oh, page 8. On the water base charge there, we took out the construction meter base monthly charge. And they will pay the $93 the time the meter's plugged in. And we pay sewer and water when the meter's plugged in.
they're gonna pay sewer and water.
And Scott looked into that too, and that's what
Yeah.
the cities are doing.
The Georgia cities, we already got involved, starting construction.
Okay.
So once you put the meter in, you start paying all your fees to the city.
Okay.
And then if they do an illegal connection to the water, it's 500 plus that $93 fee, clear back to when the permit was issued.
Yeah, so when the building permit is right?
Right.
I like that.
And then on page 11, we just took off the sewer connection, $20 because it'll be that 93.
Oh, okay.
We just took that off. And then Katie does the special event permit applications, and she's updated those permits and checked with a bunch of other cities. And so we're gonna charge $100 for the special event permit. And then a lot of other cities charge for, if they want your staff or anything like that. The canvases, I just copied the canvases, $85 for support
If
staff.
one of you have to be here.
So if Katie and I both had to be here, it would be $85 per
A
person,
piece, okay.
with a 4-hour minimum.
Yeah, which we probably don't have come up,
I don't think we've ever needed it,
but it's still
but
good to have there in case.
in case somebody, or if, you know,
Or,
an event came in and they completely trashed the grounds, we have a way to charge them the fee for that.
right,
Or if ahead of time they said, hey, we need you guys to hook up, you know, put an electrical connection somehow, or get it so we can have some, we have a way to do that, and
Yes.
charge them.
is there I know we talked about this the other day, is there a deposit outside of the application fee that
So,
they pay
Yeah, so we
Depending
talked
on
about,
when they
so,
use the public facilities?
yeah, so this is just for the application.
Right.
We didn't have this before, it was kind of weird. We just assumed that if someone was having a special event in Francis, that they were gonna do it
Oh, that's right.
at our grounds here. Not necessarily the case. I started looking at other cities, and if someone has a large, like, fair or a wedding, like 500 or more people, then we're gonna wanna know about it anyway. We want them to tell us where they're gonna have people parking and make sure they've coordinated with the health department to get porta potties and all that kind of thing. So it's not just for people that use our grounds. We have those fees down here. So if they were gonna use our grounds, they'd pay the $100 application fee plus they pay to rent the grounds or the building or whatever they were gonna use. If it's just like a normal event here at this building, they don't have to pay the special event fee. It's more for a large event, or if they're gonna shut down city roads, or, use city property that's not covered under the rental. That's all as part of this application I'm working on. But, let me see, city park grounds is right here. So it goes through, like, if you wanted to rent this building or the arena, it's all here. So here's the special events park rental. That's if you're gonna rent the entire park here or use all the parking. Then you pay the $350, and then there is a cleaning deposit. It's refundable for $250. But we're not changing that. That part stayed the same. Are there any other changes, Susie? No. So that's-
All right.
And Brad said to let you all know with all these changes that we made tonight, if you approve them, they all go into effect. It's not ones that have to wait so many days
Okay.
before
It's
they
all,
go into effect.
it's all in effect.
It will all go into effect after you approve it.
Okay, is that everything on that? This is a public hearing, so we'll open up the public hearing on the fee and rate ordinance. For any public comment? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council for any further questions or discussion. Anybody see anything they don't like, anything that you'd like the hood-wise change? I think a lot of this is just bringing us a little more up to date with kind of where we should be and a little more in line with the actual costs, so we cover our administrative costs when we're dealing with a lot of these different things, so.
Right, and the reason we're upping the deposit is in the last year we've had somebody bring in a plan set, we spent time checking it, sent it to our building inspector, that's costly. And then they decided they weren't gonna build. And so we didn't really have enough to cover our costs.
Right. All right. If we have no other questions or discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve, the rate.
Oh, actually, hold on.
I guess I don't.
So there's actually an ordinance, so you can't, but there's actually an ordinance number 2023.
Oh, is it? I didn't.
Oh, three. It's a separate document. So if you wanted, you could just move to pass that ordinance.
Okay. I make a motion to pass all the changes made to city ordinance number 2023-03.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right, that's unanimous, so that passes. And we'll move on to the next item, which is to appoint two new planning commissioners. So over the course of the last, couple of weeks, we've interviewed some candidates for planning commission. One of those, we interviewed as a council, or a council seat last month, Kim Lawson. We've reached out to her, invited her to serve on the planning commission. And then also Sam Strebel, who's here. I was gonna say Katie and I interviewed her, but that's not true. Only I interviewed her because Katie was gone. So I interviewed Sam. And so it's my recommendation that we put Kim Lawson and Sam Strebel both on the planning commission to fill those two vacant seats. Of course, if anyone has any questions, concerns, now's the time to discuss those. But if not, I'll entertain a motion to. I think they'll both be a huge asset to the city. Both have some experience and some really good insight into kind of how to maybe handle some of this new growth. So I think both would be very helpful.
Well, I'll make the motion to appoint Sam Strubel and, is it Samantha?
Yeah.
Okay, Samantha Strubel and Kim Lawson to the planning commission.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor, Sam?
Aye.
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 Clint, aye. All right. Welcome.
Welcome.
Sorry.
After
After tonight, she had guests in town for a ski vacation, so.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for your willingness to serve the community in that capacity. It's one of the things that I expressed to Sam and the others that I interviewed over the last couple of weeks. I actually feel like the planning commission has in a lot of ways, a bigger impact in the way things happen in the city than we do on this council, because they do all the heavy lifting when it comes to these developments and things happening. They go through all the hard work and they bring us a project that they think will fit, and we just have to be sitting up here saying yes or no. So I appreciate the work that the planning commission does and your willingness to help us there. So
I hope the end of 6 months.
yeah.
2 years.
Yeah. You're stuck for 2 years. You can't go anywhere before that. All right. Next item is the waiver and resolution for Ivory Homes. This is,
What about renewable energy?
oh, did I skip that? I did. Okay. I'm sorry. We'll go back to that. Sorry. Renewable energy. So Shanna, you might remember, I think everyone else was not really a part of this discussion. A couple of years ago, I want to say, the county came to us with this renewable energy deal where they're trying to get everyone on this renewable energy program where they net 100, so that the idea is that the people who stay in this program, basically, we're actually putting as much power into the grid as we're taking out, so you're net 100, right? So if you remember, it was all set up and we had to decide whether to be involved in the program or not. And it cost us like $1,200 to do that. And then there's all of these steps that this renewable energy has to go through. So the Renewable Energy Act was created, and then there's 23 communities who entered into the agreement. And we were one of those. So up to this point, I think there's 18 communities. So what happens is they change from this kind of agreement to an agency, and that happened in July of 2021, and we signed to be a part of that. So we're still in. The only thing that we would have to do now to remain in is appoint someone to be on the renewable energy committee, or I can't remember if they call it a committee or a board, but to just kind of represent us in that. And then we would have to pay to mail out 2 mailers to all of the customers within our city. And that would be the only additional cost. And basically what it does is it allows the citizens within the city who are purchasing power through Rocky Mountain Power to opt out of the program. So that's what the mailer would do, was notify them that they could opt out. If you don't opt out, you're automatically in. So it actually may raise individual power bills a little bit. It shouldn't be a lot, but it may raise them a little bit because you're now paying toward that renewable energy. And that's solar fields, wherever they may be, or different renewable energy infrastructure, whatever that might be, or wherever it may end up. But the idea is that it's available to the citizens, and if they don't want to be a part of it, they can opt out. And that's what we would mail those mailers out twice. So basically, if we decide that we want to remain in the program, we have to appoint someone, and then we have to sign what they call the utility agreement by the end of March. So if you decide as a council that we want to stay in the program, you'll just need to authorize me to sign the utility agreement with the county renewable energy, or with the renewable energy agency. And then we stay in, and we pay for the 2 mailers to go out at different times, so everyone's notified. And
Do they provide the mailer?
they provide it, we just have to pay
Okay.
the postage.
I just didn't know if we had to come up with all the
Yeah.
fancy
No,
writing.
so they provide the information, they provide the mailer, we just have to pay for the postage. So it's,
Okay,
it may cost us a couple $100.
yeah, it's minimal.
It's pretty negligible. Personally, it's not, it's not a passion for me necessarily, but I don't see a downside in that those who are interested in renewable energy can remain in the program. They can pay the extra on their power bill and be a part of that. Those who don't within the city can opt out, and everybody kind of has it their way, so to speak. So, again, it's kind of up to you guys, but that's kind of the deal. And if you have more questions or want more information, I can get that for you. Emily Quinton with the county sent me a bunch of stuff. We had a meeting a while back where we talked about it. So I gave you the complete Reader's Digest version, but if you want more information, I can certainly get it for you. But that's kind of the nuts and bolts of the deal. So I don't know that we necessarily need a vote on it, but it may not hurt to have, if you want to stay in, if you just want to authorize me to sign the agreement. That's kind of the deal there.
In my opinion, is authorize you to sign it, and then each individual in the city has their own choice, but then we will reap the benefits of it if and when there are any, so.
Right. That's kind of how I feel about it.
I agree.
All right. So I don't know if we have to have a motion and a vote for that, but just in the interest of playing the city, we have a motion and a vote to authorize me to sign that agreement.
I'll make a motion to give you authorization to sign the proper documents.
Utility agreement.
Your utility agreement.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, Done deal. Now can we go to the
Now?
library homes deal? Is that all right?
Yeah.
What about, you know, the refund? Are we
So-
going to refund?
So back in January, a couple months ago, Ivory reached out to us and asked us to reimburse them for the costs that they paid for 7 building permits that they pulled. They haven't been able to start working on them, they don't foresee doing that in the near future, and so they asked us to reimburse them for those costs. This is not something we normally do. I'm just gonna read this letter. This is from Brad. He wrote a letter to them explaining policy. We received your request for a refund. Francis City Code currently does not authorize refunds or outline a process for when refunds are appropriate. Notwithstanding the lack of any process to provide a refund, the city council will consider this request, which would be for a partial refund for each permit. The amounts actually expended by the city will not be refunded. The application fee and those costs under plan check will not be refunded. So came up with a table listing the different fees they paid and then what portion will be refunded from each. So we took out whatever money we've already spent on our time and Greg, our inspector's time. We're not refunding that. It would just be what we haven't spent yet. They would have to, when they want to actually build these homes, they'll have to come back in and pay the full cost all over again.
Including the cost that we.
Including what they've already
we
spent.
give back to them.
Yeah, they'll have to pay the entire cost all over again.
Is this part of the Ivory Homes development up the road bit?
This is Stewart Ranches.
Old Stewart Ranches.
Yeah, these are all Stewart Ranches.
So they're not proceeding with building these, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 homes?
Right.
Okay.
Not for now.
Yeah,
For
they're
now.
not right now. Eventually, I'm sure they'll be built, but I think with the changes in the market, they've decided that they're not going to proceed with constructing these homes at this time.
So basically, we're just not keeping the money that, you know, for, say, the impact fees and bonds and all of those things, the permit fee, but we are at least keeping the money that covers the staff cost, you know, the actual city cost for plan reviews and things like that. You know, so we're basically covering our costs and giving them back everything that we, you know, would just be extra above and beyond that.
Is there a resolution for this, Suzanne?
There is a resolution and an agreement. The resolution is number 2023-03. If you would like, so that you have a little more clear understanding of what this is and how it works, we can call Brad. I didn't ask him to be here. He's got some other engagements, but he is willing to get on the phone and explain a little more detail of how this is or what's going on with it, but we don't need that unless you guys want it, if that makes sense.
I think I understand it, but just maybe in me, is this going to leave us with another rundown ranch that's just sitting empty? I know they've started a few of them.
No, the infrastructure's in, plots are recorded,
Okay.
so that one there, plot's not recorded. I'm not.
And that, it's not just gonna be an empty weed patch.
They built a couple homes, they just don't wanna build these 7 this time.
Because they're more or less.
They'll be back, they'll be
more or
back
less
spots,
back.
and who's how they'll sit, but
Yeah,
there is a road, there is water lines, everything runs through it.
okay, I just didn't want the ugly thing we have up here on the main road
I agree.
again down there, so.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I just don't know, even if we didn't refund this, we still wouldn't be.
Then they still
Yeah,
would
we
be
can't
built.
force them to build them, if that makes sense. So,
I just thought maybe if we didn't, it would entice them to build them
yeah,
faster, I don't know.
right. I like the way you think, but I don't think
Right.
we do. So basically, if you see in the table, we're gonna refund them $103,537, and that's minus the, you know, that's the total we would fund them, minus what we're keeping, so that's kind of where we would be on that. And it's money they paid us anyway, so it's not like it's coming out of our budget necessarily.
So it's the 225 application fee, yeah. And then we'll be paying Greg.
Okay. So does it have a resolution then?
Yeah, resolution number 2023-03, and I think what we need to do is pass the resolution. And do you know, does this,
So pass the resolution, you review.
and then authorize me to sign the agreement with Ivory Homes? If there's no other questions or discussion.
You're gonna have to tell me the resolution, but I can't find it.
2023-03.
Okay, then I'll make the motion to pass the resolution 2023-03 and authorize Jeremy, the mayor, to refund partial payment back to Ivory.
To sign the agreement.
To sign the agreement, yes.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right. I think typically we read these, and I didn't read it, so before we vote, I'll just read the resolution real quick.
Okay,
Whereas Ivory Homes was unable to begin construction on issued building permits referenced in Exhibit A, which is the table similar to the one you see there. Whereas Ivory requested refunds from the funds paid for those building permits, and whereas the city considered the request and conducted a thorough review of applicable law regarding the matter, and whereas the city has proposed an acknowledgement and waiver containing conditions on which the city will issue a partial refund, and whereas the city council now desires to approve those certain refunds as outlined on Exhibit A, now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of Francis, City, State of Utah as follows. Section 1, approval. Those certain refunds attached here to as Exhibit A and incorporated here by reference is hereby approved by the City Council of City Francis. City staff are hereby directed to take all steps necessary to process said refunds. Section 2, severability. If any section, part, or provision of this resolution is held invalid or unenforceable, such invalidity or unenforceability shall not affect any other portion of this resolution, and all sections, parts, and provisions of this resolution shall be severable. Section 3, effective date, this resolution shall become effective immediately upon its passage. All right.
I should have asked this before. Obviously, we're asking them to sign a waiver acknowledgement. Have we talked to them about this yet? Are they in agreement with this? Are they going to object to this?
As I understand it, we have been in contact with them, and it should be.
Okay.
And it is in the group agreement.
Okay. Well, then, I second Sean's motion.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded. Pass resolution number 2023-03.
Aye.
Mayor's aye, Shannon?
aye.
All right. That passes. Next, did you want me to sign this one? Did we talk about that? And then, what about the agreement, I guess we'll do later.
Yeah, we can sign it.
Do you have
We'll do
check
it later.
register? We didn't.
We didn't, but we need to
Okay.
do that. I don't have the paper copy.
Okay.
Do you have the paper copy of the check register, Shannon?
You just remember that we didn't.
Initially. We passed that sucker, but we did not put our initials on it. It's a good thing you're here to keep me in line, because I don't know what I'm doing half the time here. All right, we'll get that. Next item on the agenda is just a discussion amongst the council on kind of what everyone's thoughts are on future growth and future land use, general thoughts and feelings on annexation, petitions, things like that, so that we kind of have a little better idea on how to handle future meetings with developers, and so we can at least not, I certainly don't want to speak for anyone on the council, but if I can at least have a general idea of your general feelings, on some of this growth and annexation and things like that, then it's a lot easier for me to say, look, you're more than welcome to come to council, but here's kind of the general idea of what we're doing, and where we're going as a council, and here's kind of the general thoughts. Again, not because I want to speak for anyone, but just that it makes it easier. Plus, it'll help us as we start building out the general plan in the next couple of months. So anyway, just kind of a general discussion on the growth and what we're doing. Katie has a new map that shows some of the future land use and possible future zoning in some different areas that has been changed a little from what we had before. Where you'll see, Katie, maybe I should just turn this over to you.
Sure.
She can tell you kind of what we've talked about, what we've kind of shown as possible future zoning. None of this obviously is concrete, but just things to think about.
Yeah, so one thing that we're gonna be working on with the planning commission and the city council this year is updating our general plan. It's time. We planned that the last general plan we've used through 2022, so here we are in 2023, and ready to kind of think about the path for the city. A general plan gives us direction and goals that we're gonna work on in the next 5 years. So as we start thinking about that, one thing we're looking at is, are there any zones in the city that we would potentially want to change? And we looked at our current zoning, and there are a few areas that seem to make some sense to change. So, one area is the commercial zone. Right now, the back of, this is a Route 32 project, West Harwood. The back of that to the city, you kind of see this little slim part here. Right now, that's Ag 1, and then storage units are commercial all the way back to the property line. And then back here, again, there's kind of this slim sliver of Ag 1 between the commercial line and then the city boundary. So we're thinking it would be smart to extend the commercial zone all the way to the city boundary. Because there's really not much somebody could do with a slim piece of land of Ag 1.
Does Wes have that now?
I don't know who owns it. I don't think he does. I think he was interested in potentially purchasing it, but I don't believe that's part of what not part of what he owns at this point. I think whoever owns it wasn't interested in selling it, but I've had some people inquire about it, so maybe he was. Anyway, it's difficult to think of what a good Ag 1 use would be back there on that slim portion, and it would be nice for us to have a little bit more commercial space in that area, especially close to campus on the north side. So that was one potential change that we thought we might want to think about making. Another idea was we talked about plans for the city in the future. We feel like affordable housing will continue to be an important issue for many residents, as well as trying to preserve open space, but then allowing growth in certain areas. So one conversation that Jeremy and I had was, if we're going to see more growth, where do we want to focus that growth at? And we decided, to us, it made the most sense around the four-way stop, where the city center zone is planned. And so accomplishing that in two different methods, and again, this is just ideas at this point.
Well, and especially if you're going to consider higher density, multifamily type housing, not necessarily apartment buildings, but the mixed use is really a multifamily option. You know, it becomes, for all intents and purposes, an apartment building on the second or third floor. And so that was kind of our thought, is if we're going to have that type of housing, that type of density, where does it make the most sense? And it seems to us, again, just thinking out loud more than anything, is that if we focus that around that four-way intersection of the city center zone, that makes the most sense. As that's built out, those people would be more likely to want the walking distance or walking distance to certain stores or whatever that may be in that zone, but to put multifamily housing like that, you know, the furthest stretches of the city may not make as much sense.
Right, so it does make it easier in the future when developers come and talk to us about where do you want to see density in the city? We can say, we have these areas set aside that we envision having the density in this particular area close to main arterial streets, state highways. So the two changes here that we're thinking about are, first of all, extending the city center zone. Right now, it goes to about right here. And so we would extend that on this south side of 35, close to the city park area, a few lots down. And this little yellow block would actually be part of it. This is just a first stab at mapping it. So extending that city center down, so this would allow for mixed-use development. It would allow retail on the first floor, and then 2 or maybe potentially 3 second and third floors would be, like Jeremy said, apartments, higher density residential.
So for all intents and purposes, you know, if we decided we like that, it would move that city center zone to the eastern edge of the gravel road leading from 35 back to the arena.
Right. One good benefit about this is a lot of the infrastructure is already in place in this area. Of course, we have the highway there and water and sewer lines close to the center of the city, so we're not extending our service area. And then mixed-use product seems to be very popular, and it provides us with good tax incentives for better property tax. Both the retail and then the higher density, those both feed into more return per acre on getting our tax income. The other potential change we're looking at is extending the cottage zone. So right now, this piece, the old church property, is zoned residential cottage, and as we talked about, the land between the city center zone and this cottage piece, to us it made sense to allow some smaller lot sizes. They're still zoned for single family homes, but they're more like what's being built around by the cemetery right now, so smaller lot sizes. To just avoid having spot zoning right here, we would open this up to smaller lot sizes, partially down SR 35. So those are the main ones. There's also a small change over here that we used to have a strip at the top of this lot. It was commercial, so coming in from 35, it was commercial, sorry, this is 32. Commercial, then there was a strip of residential half, and then there was another strip of commercial right here against the Francis Commons subdivision. I think that was left over from back in the day when there was supposed to be some more commercial over here, but now it really wouldn't make any sense at all to have a strip of commercial there, so we're thinking residential half fits in better with that area.
So Katie, also just looking at this, I don't know that I'd ever picked up on this before, but
Yeah,
in that commercial zone there where it intersects with Hilltop,
yeah,
would it make more sense to end it at that, I guess, third property line from the left? So that it ends just prior to that intersection?
right, like right here,
One more over, right? Yeah, right there.
right there.
Um,
Yeah,
You know, I don't know, maybe it doesn't matter, because maybe you would access a business in those other 2 lots from, you know, back on the highway anyway, and it wouldn't affect that intersection, but that intersection's a little bit problematic
I
anyway.
don't think we want commercial right there.
Yeah, I don't know if we want commercial past that intersection.
I think that's a really good point. That, I agree that we want to keep commercial off of Hilltop. So I'll go ahead and write that in, and we'll look at making that zone change as well.
And then, also something to think about, these are proposed, zone changes and/or things we may consider, if that makes sense, right? So it might be something that we wouldn't go out and rezone that property immediately. But if someone were to come to us and say, hey, what about, then maybe that zone that we're talking about here would be something we would consider in that area. Does that make sense?
Right, yeah.
And maybe we would, it just kind of depends, but some of this doesn't have to, we don't have to go out and rezone it now, and in essence, open it up to those types of developments. But what we can do is have this future land use map, and this wouldn't be something we would keep a secret from the public, but it's not necessarily something that we would go out and immediately rezone so that it then opens up those areas for those types of projects. But if someone comes in and says, hey, we own this piece of property within, this area where we're talking about it, maybe extending that city center zone, and they want to come to us with something that would fit in the city center zone, then of course, if we've got that on this future map, we can say, yeah, that's something that we've already thought through and something we would certainly consider for that area, rather than kind of shoot from the hip when someone comes with a proposal.
Right, so this wouldn't necessarily be our zoning map unless in our general plan discussions, we decided we wanted to actually make some of these changes. But there's an advantage in some ways to just having this stay in the future map, where if someone comes in and wants to develop, then it gives us leverage to negotiate with them and make sure it's a project that really fits what we want to see in that area.
Right.
Because if you change the zone, then they can present a project that meets the zone.
Right.
It's the code, they have to do it.
Yeah, if you go out and rezone it now, it opens it up to whatever fits. Which maybe is the right thing, depending, in some areas, or maybe
Like
it's
that
not.
commercial zone, that's probably the right thing to do right now.
Right, maybe so.
I think those two commercial changes, that's probably the right thing to do right now. But maybe the city center zone or the cottage zoning changes is something that we hold onto for future and negotiate with when they come in. It's a possibility under the right circumstances.
So anyway,
So that's just one thing that I kind of want to talk about. We also want to just discuss everyone's thoughts and feelings about growth. We have, for example, the Burton Ranch. Some of you might remember that one, Burton Ranch. Sam, were you around when they came in?
I don't think so.
Okay, so
Burton Ranch and Mitten property on there.
So it's the Mitten property, it's up here, across from, is that the right place? No, that's not.
Is that the one that came
It's
to
right
us?
here.
They wanted
Across
us,
from Hart.
they wanted us to annex in?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so they came in, they wanted to build a road, the extension to 248, they wanted to build part of that as one of the benefits. It was Rick Rabb and Tom Flinders, you might remember them from Francis Comments, they were working on that project before they sold it to Ivory. So it's Kent Burton's Mitten property. They've been talking with us, their petition was denied in August or September, so they have to wait another year before they can come in and petition for annexation again. But they are already wanting to meet with Jeremy and I
We've met with
and
them
go
twice.
over different plans and get our feedback on things, and it's hard for us to know exactly what to tell them because all the council is new, so we'd love to hear your feelings on annexations. Are they something that you don't want to consider at all, or maybe something you consider under the right circumstances? What circumstances would those look like? Just curious what everyone's thoughts are.
Refresh my memory too, did they not have a well on that piece of property?
I think there is a well.
There's a established well, but they didn't know, they didn't have a yield, it hadn't pumped for a while. Am I thinking of the right one? Okay. Have they done anything further with that? Because I know that was a point of contention in the conversation before.
I don't know that they've done anything with the well. They've just been in with different ideas and different thoughts. What about this, what about that? We basically told them, maybe, we don't know. We don't know what maybe the benefit is to the city, or maybe there is no benefit to the city. One thing I'm really trying to stay away from as the mayor, when I'm meeting with these developers, is I want them to come to me with the project rather than them come to me and want me to give them ideas on what to do with their property. That's not my position. if they want to do something, they need to tell us what it is they think they want to do, and then if that works, okay, we can have those discussions, but if it doesn't, that's, I'm not going to give them options or ideas necessarily. But the purpose of this discussion is just to decide, or not to decide anything really, but to kind of just talk about everyone's feelings about annexation. Do we want to consider any annexation? If we do, what do those circumstances at least sort of look like? And then also, some of the zoning stuff as well, so. I'm gonna shut up and let you guys go.
Well, and again, I'm drawing from memory, but my thoughts are on the annexation. And I think we've had this discussion before, and Clayton, you and I, and most, I think, council people here. I would like to see that it has a benefit to the city, obviously. You don't want to just annex something in, because it just puts more stress and strain on our existing infrastructure. So if they can bring something to the table, that's why I asked about the well. If it was a producible well, that, Scott can obviously engineer into our system and it could be a benefit, then I'm not totally against that.
Sure.
But to annex in land just so we can start building more homes in that area without any help given to us for the infrastructure, I don't see where that's a huge benefit to us.
I agree with that.
And I think there's two kinds of annexations, like that one is on the outskirts of town. There's the one that is next to the Frontier Acres that wants to annex, they own 10 acres or 20 acres behind that new subdivision. They've come in and I think we told them we weren't really that interested, but that's kind of in the infill area where, a long time ago, I can't remember which mayor it was, says, I'd really like to get rid of this H Francis that we have, let's square it off, and that's where we'd like to see annexations rather than, the Stewart Ranch or this one way out on the outskirts.
Right.
And so I think that's
Totally agree with that.
Something to think
about too.
Well, I will say one other thing that I've kind of been thinking through a lot of this annexation stuff, because it comes up often. Everyone wants to talk about annexation. One thing I've thought of personally and talked with Katie a little bit, personally, I'm thinking more along the lines of I will consider an annexation if I can save some ground. And what I mean by that is if someone comes to me and says, hey, I want to annex this, I feel like if we can push them toward a conservation subdivision type of a plan, and then somehow create the open space, that can then connect with other open space throughout the city, so that as we go, we can start connecting some of this open space with trails, so that the open space not only preserves what we have, but also has some value to the people that are here, for the people who might be coming here. To me, that's maybe one benefit to an annexation is I'm willing to bring your property into the city in order to preserve something, right? Now, there's going to be a trade-off with that, obviously, but anyway, just a thought that I had recently is that if we can consider annexations under those types of concepts, maybe there's some value in doing that. Maybe not, but that's one of the thoughts that I've kind of rolling around in my mind a little bit. Any other thoughts on, just generalized thoughts on annexations? Something you want to consider, something you don't, whatever.
I think I just second that. Every decision we talk about needs to be a win for the city. And I think, just like what you said, that's how we help dictate that.
So when you say it needs to be a win for the city, what kind of things are you looking for that would be a win?
So I think like what Mayor said, we need to conserve what majority of the people want is these landscapes, connecting the lands with other ones. That's mainly it.
Are you aware of yours property?
I was actually just gonna bring that up. Yeah, so the county, with the Summer Land Conservancy, are really close to making an agreement to purchase the Yurs property.
800 plus acres.
Yeah, north of 248 to help preserve that Camas Meadows area. So it's a big chunk. I didn't know exactly how much. You said 300 plus?
800.
800. It's just about 900.
Yeah, it's huge. I know that. It's big. And so that's, that will be preserved in perpetuity as open space.
And it will never be
And we
developed.
hope.
We hope.
Let's hope.
'Cause I think there's some of it with
And they have a ton of water.
the year property is blocked off. It's
I'd love to hear that. I didn't,
That
some
happened
of
up
it's on
in Knox
248 and
today.
stuff like that. So
Right,
I don't know if they're, I don't know.
We'll see, but
They do.
the idea is that it's preserved and saved. Hopefully that is the case.
and that's on the north side of 248?
North side of 248.
David worked
North
very
and south.
I think, yeah, I think a little bit of south, but mostly north.
It sounds like the county might use some of it.
Yeah, and their little press release, they say reserve some land for benefits of the county.
Right.
It's a lot of land.
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
That is good news as far as I'm concerned. It's really nice.
Yeah, I agree, and that's one of the things that these annexations come up, and they're going to continue to come up. I think for me, that's quickly becoming one of the only bargaining chips I'm willing to really listen, or one of the only things I'm really willing to listen to is how can you save as much open space as possible, and then how can we make that benefit to the residents by connecting those with other open space through trails or whatever the options we might have. As I drove around Francis City a couple of weeks ago, I was looking through, you get on top of the bench at Willow Way and kind of look down through here, you can almost see open space all the way through. It's not a huge piece, but there's still open space there, and it's one of the few places that we have that. So if we can consider those annexations and then plan those accordingly so that that open space can kind of be interconnected from project to project, maybe that's something that can be helpful. The one thing that concerns me with that is there's always going to be a trade-off, because by doing a conservation subdivision, we give them a density bonus. So they're going to cluster and they're going to get a higher number of homes, but we're still going to, right, on a smaller piece of ground, but we're still going to preserve that open space. So I don't know entirely if I've come to terms with that in my mind, but I think at least that is beginning to make sense to me more. I'm becoming more comfortable with that trade-off, even though I don't want the density. I just don't know, outside of purchasing the land ourselves, I don't know how we can preserve it other than through that conservation subdivision model. And I think that's really our best option. But I could be up in the night, and/or somebody might have a better idea, which I'm more than happy to hear.
Well, you kind of look at like the Hart subdivision, that it's kind of hard to see on Stewart Ranch because they have all that stuff plotted, but you can see there's open areas around it, but they're still clustered rather than having, you look at Wild Willow, it's just homes, but Hart Ranch, we've got some open spaces that you can kind of see through and see different things.
Agriculture surrounding it, which I thought was quite.
Say that again?
I like the agricultural aspect of how it processes.
Yeah.
And I think when you can do that and have rooftops and commercial, then you create a platform where the city makes money and they still gain, especially with your property. If that happens, it's going to change the whole valley. And it's going to allow each community to benefit from a residential and commercial standpoint and still have plenty of open space to maintain the integrity of the valley.
Yeah.
One benefit of a conservation subdivision, Scott and I kind of talked about this earlier today with, partially with the mixed use idea too, is Yeah, you have smaller lot sizes, but that also means that our infrastructure, our roads and sewer and water lines are all compact, they're not spread out, so our maintenance costs are gonna be significantly lower per capita. So that is gonna help us be a more sustainable financial city too.
I would guess that by clustering in smaller lot sizes, in that type of concept, the model also uses a little less water.
Yeah.
Probably significantly less water. The time you're watering smaller yards, things like that.
If you look at, the majority of the use is outdoor use.
Right.
You know, the required for half acre lot, 1 acre foot of water, 0.45 of that is for the house. The other 0.55 or whatever it is for outside water use. That's our biggest demand, that puts the biggest demand on our infrastructure in the summer, the wells and stuff like that, is we have the issues in the summer. By having smaller lots and things like that, it helps with our infrastructure and constraining water too. You know, even, you know, they say multi-family housing helps with water conservation, because there's not yards for water.
Right. The other thing that we talked about, maybe I'll get Kicksbury to bring this up, is we can look at the zones that we currently have in the code. We can talk about, you know, maybe it makes sense that some of this area that's within our annexation declaration area, so that kind of darker forest green, that's not, you know, it's zone, the Ag 2. You know, maybe it makes sense that in some of those outlying areas, we change that Ag 2 to Ag 5 or something like that, in order to preserve some of that on the outskirts of the city. I don't know that that's the answer, I'm just saying that that is an option, right? We could actually add an Ag 5 zone and some of that outskirt property, you know, keep that as our future option as well. If that's something that makes sense. Again, just a thought, I don't know if it really does or not, but maybe. The only real downfall of that is you create a trophy home scenario. Right, because somebody's gonna buy 5 acres and
Sure.
if they got the money to buy 5 acres, they got the money to build a trophy home. Which may not be all bad, right? Like that.
I
I
gotta
say
see
that like
one
that.
home on that, the 50. so.
Yeah.
Sure. And so that's why I said, I kind of say it like it's a bad thing, it's not
Mhm.
necessarily.
No.
But I don't think we want to make the whole city that.
No.
So, and just one thing good about this, your annexation, or your property that they're saying, it butts up against the stuff that we protect as far as the meadows that are in the annexation. So we protected all that open space, and it ties into what's the property that they own, and so depending on what they do, it could create a big, huge open space from there.
That's a good deal.
Okay, so let's just talk a little bit more about this one. You brought up this one area, Frontier Acres. This is one where I think they're feeling like they're at the point where they're either going to try to work on an annexation with us, or they're going to just sell it. And so this is the property right now. They have, is it 5? How many residential have in the front? 6?
Yeah, 6.
6 in the front, and then 4 acre back lots in the back in this green area. And they came in and talked to us about potentially annexing this back portion here, which fills in that H area that Jeremy was talking about. Or maybe it was Scott. Yeah, it was Scott. So they were wanting to do 1 acre lots back here and build an area that would connect to future road through here. So the feedback from council was not super positive on that. And I think part of it is a timing issue where we have a lot on our plate right now. But at the same time, we have a developer, from my perspective, we have a developer who is willing to do 1 acre lots. They already have it. They already have 1 acre lots right here. So to me, it doesn't make sense to have them do anything else differently back here, because it's already going to be on the same road. If you're going to live in this neighborhood, you're probably just going to expect things to just continue the same. So if we don't want to see 1 acre lots there, to me, that makes sense to do 1 acre lots back here and to annex that in because it is part of the infill. I think part of the issue was they just didn't feel like they could really have a solid benefit to the city because it's a smaller parcel. It's only 10 acres. There's no need for a park back there because we have our city parks right over here, nearby. Their question, and it's a reasonable question, is what type of benefit could we even provide with a 10 acre property? So I want to have a good answer for them. He's asking me like, okay, I'm willing to do what you guys are looking for here, which is 1 acre lots, but you don't want to do it. Is it, what can I do to get this annexation to work out? Or is it just not going to happen because it's just not the right time? So I would love to have some answers to his questions too.
Okay, I have a few questions just for clarity on my part.
Yeah.
The dark black line, that's our city limit?
Yeah, this is our city limit, so
Okay.
this is the part of the development.
Who owns the other, is that county, all back in
It's all
there?
county.
County,
Outside of his 10 acres?
Yeah, it's all in the county, anything that's not.
it's in the county, I don't know who owns it, but it's in
Okay.
the county. Crystals?
It used to be the
It
patty.
used to be Patty's and
Patty's
she gifted it to Garrett.
Oh, okay, that's part of hers, okay.
Yep.
All right.
So his-
Well, I'm just visualizing, we cut out that chunk, cuts part of that H part, that,
It starts filling in the H.
it starts filling it in. But then, in the future, who's gonna come, we have no idea what's gonna come before us to fill in that other land. If the 1 acres is still gonna be acceptable to whoever buys that or wants to develop in there,
Well, I think
I don't,
part of why we want to do this future land map is when people do come to us, we can say, this is what we see in this future area, and this is what we want to see here. So if they come to us and say, we want cottage lots, say, you know what, that is not what we envision in this area.
well, that's a good point. If we've established the 1 acre, is that what the green, light green is?
Yeah, that's
1
what
acre?
I agree, so.
If that's good, if we have that in our mindset, if we annex all that in eventually, it stays at 1, then I really don't see it. Other than the fact that, love to see it open and graze cattle or something, or hay, but I don't think that's gonna be feasible.
Well, and that's the beauty of annexations, right? We don't have to do anything. We can say, no, we're uninterested. And I'm not saying that's the right answer, but I'm saying we have that as an option. If someone comes to us with an annexation, we can simply say we are uninterested. They have no legal right to annexation or anything like that. And we can just simply say, we don't want to talk about that for the next 10 years or maybe forever. That may not be wise, it may not be the right answer, but it is an answer we can give. I think some of these annexations may make sense based on, location or, again, this open space opportunity, or, we have that as our idea to have 1 acre lots. So maybe it does make sense to annex that and allow those 1 acre lots. I don't know what the answer is, but that is the beauty of an annexation, is we're kind of in the driver's seat. We can sort of decide what we think works for the city. And that's kind of why the general plan and this discussion is important, because it gives us an opportunity as council to sit down and say, okay, here's what our vision of the city is. And if we kind of have that roadmap clearly established, then we can say, look, when these people come and want to annex, we can say, we're uninterested because, or yeah, we're very interested, and here's what we had envisioned for that area. So if you can make a project work like this,
Go for it.
right? And so that's kind of my hope with this process, is that we can sort of have that guideline to work within. So we have that vision, we can say, look, we don't think the 1 acre lots are gonna work there, or we think that needs to be Ag 5 there, or whatever the case may be. world for me, I would go out there where that, I would annex the whole city and make it square, so we just have this city
Sure.
as a square, but you can't do that.
Yeah.
And it's not realistic, I understand, but in a perfect world, I would just square off all the boundaries. And we could zone it all Ag 20, I don't care, but if we had the boundaries squared off, it would sure be easier, you know? Again, not realistic, but that would be
Well, you
nice.
You have a point. If they own 10 acres and they want to do 10 1-acre lots, that's the potential lots, 10, well, can they get 10? You can,
It's
you have 9.
They don't actually like 11.
Oh, okay,
It's
so,
more than 10.
okay, so,
When they take out the roads and that, they'll still have 10.
okay. Well, Jeremy came up with, well, if you put a 5-acre in that area, then now you're gonna get your, model home where you're, that's too, never mind. I was just saying maybe something larger than the 1 acres, if we start the precedent with that annexation, if anybody in the future came
Well,
and
maybe
flooded
that's
in.
not, maybe that's not a bad deal. Maybe we consider changing to an Ag 5 zone that we could put somewhere, and maybe that does work there.
Okay.
Maybe you can have 2 5-acre lots there. I don't know.
No, I agree, I'm just trying to.
Maybe that does work,
Yeah. But,
maybe not. I mean, which is worse?
trying to think of what we could do to help the developer, like you say,
Give them
Yeah.
some options.
give him some options, not just cut him off at the knees.
Right, I mean, he's
Yeah.
coming in, wanting to do.
Yeah,
what
good faith, he's wanting to, I can understand he wanted to build something there,
Right.
but my thoughts on it are, well, I have no idea. The crystals, I don't know that they would ever consider selling. They graze way too much, and I don't know what their thoughts are, but if if we took that black line going right straight across and it ended up being ours, are we, these first sets of annexations, do we need to try to set a precedent and stick to that, or we cut our nose off to spite our face here?
I don't know.
That's.
I mean, I don't think
There's,
it's realistic to say we'd love to annex it, but only if we can annex that whole square.
no, I really
Because
can't.
you got so many people.
You got too many people that own it. No, I understand that. My thoughts were if in the future they decided to sell.
Sure. Well, I can tell you what I believe the Crystal's point of view would be right now, and that'd be hell no.
Oh, I don't know them that
And
well.
maybe that's
honestly,
looking
but
real likely,
It would
but
be a harder than that.
I'm
no,
thinking
no.
I'd get something more than the hell.
but who knows, that may change,
Yeah.
Hopefully not, but it may, we just don't know, but.
No, I understand.
Patty would come back and haunt him.
Right. Anyway,
Okay. Well,
I don't know, I don't
We'll
know
have
any
to
type more, so I'm just.
yeah, we
we're
can,
just
we'll,
trying to get an
we'll,
idea. Do we tell them, do I tell them like, well, I'll come back and talk to council again, or, I just sell the property?
what do you think?
I don't know, I've met with him, I got the same problem Katie's got, I don't know.
What could he get if we left it in the county? 2?
I don't check the zoning in the county, I'm sure, the other issues, and they're gonna have septic systems out there, unless we let them tie into our city water. But then at that point, we're giving them city
We're giving
services
them-
without the
yeah.
benefit.
Right.
I was just wondering if they have us over a barrel. Okay, the county's gonna let me put 15 homes up,
No,
Okay.
it's gonna be less.
Certainly not that.
That's why they're coming to us, they'd like to work with us, and they'd like to continue their subdivision, so. I don't know.
I got some, so, and again, I'm fairly green. It's my second city council meeting, and I'm still trying to lay the land. But a lot of the gripes that I hear are concerns about infrastructure and what's currently approved and whether it's valid or not, whether the city can handle it. Is it something that, we need to form that 5, 10, 20-year plan on and kick it down the road a little bit while staying in the driver's seat and see how all this works out? I know, Scott, that Bob Kirkham reached out to you. He's talked to me a lot about his concerns just east of us across Foothill. And he did mention that he was extremely impressed with your answers, and you gave him a lot of peace of mind, albeit they are frantically repairing a lot of the drainage that they took out. And and the superintendent there had no idea. Bob had to sit with him and show him, this ditch is supposed to be here, this would happen, if it's not there. I know you're figuring that too, you've had some problems.
I've actually been talking to my insurance company and trying to get flood insurance because of it, so.
Well, and we've had flooding up there before all this happened.
Yeah,
So,
but we could control it. I mean, it would go through my barn, and I don't want it in my house now, because it's gonna be way more.
yeah.
Yeah, Bob showed me where a lot of those ditches that have been there, even when there has still been residual flooding, were just gone. And like you said, the superintendent had no idea. So it sounds like he's been, I know they're up there today trying to
Yeah.
take care of that.
Work
So
through it. They've gone through so many people up there, it's hard to keep track of everybody up there.
But do you feel, like I said, with current complaints, whether they're valid or not, about infrastructure, with all of that growth and what we currently have, is it wise to, in the near future sense, be thinking about this, or does somebody need to kick down the road and see how all this works out, or?
It's kind of, growth, we've got all these lots, planned, Stewart Ranch, we've got a bunch of them. They built 4 homes so far. Ivory Homes just pulled back 7 months. Is that gonna take 1, 2, 10, 20 years to build out? It's kind of hard to, when I first started here, Wild Willow was, I don't want to say empty, but it wasn't very full. There wasn't very many people. Over the years, all of a sudden it's full. And so as growth comes, we're building a new tank, working on the well. The sewer system's good for probably, if everything got built out tomorrow, then we need to start looking at something quick. But if it goes slow, we're ready for 10 years. But if growth comes, it's going to put strains on the infrastructure. We're just going to have to keep ahead of it and build, and that's why we charge impact fees and things like that, so that the growth pays for it rather than the citizens. But if who knows what the legislature's going to do? The county, right now they're not wanting to change too much. I'm just trying to pull up the zoning map to see if I can see what that is on that. But they could change, and we could have a small city built right next to us. So it's hard to say. There's got a lot of different things you got to look at. Each project is different. Ideally, if we were to, like Jeremy says, if we could square that off and annex that to a conservation subdivision and put the density somewhere where we thought it was the best place and kept all that open, that would be a great thing. Rather than, do 10 lots here, 10 lots here, it's hard to, if somebody doesn't want to annex, if you annex them, we have the ability to ask for things when we annex. But if we annex them without them wanting to be annexed, we can't ask for something from them, it's kind of takes our bargaining away from them, so I don't know. It's hard, but I think, as far as infrastructure, there's ways to keep ahead of it, with impact fees and things like that, we're able to do that, so.
Well, and currently our infrastructure is, either sufficient and or being built up to beyond what the growth will demand, so.
Once the tank's built and stuff like that, we've got 20 years of growth in that tank.
And the 74 homes on the hill that Bob's concerned about, he said that you were fairly confident with the sewage situation. If there's a problem, how's it gonna affect people downhill? Or
That subdivision, that's been an ongoing thing for 20 years.
20 years at least,
But,
yeah.
originally, they were supposed to get rid of the lift station. They couldn't get rid of the lift station because Patty would never let them go through their property. So then the city said, we'll do this, and then there was other issues with getting those easements. We said, well, we're never gonna lose this lift station, so let's have them rebuild the lift station. They're gonna rebuild it and upgrade it so that it's gonna have new pumps and all that kind of stuff this summer, and
upsized and everything.
Yeah, to handle it.
So you're confident that's not gonna be.
Yeah, it's, a lift station, like I told Bob, I says, lift stations, I hate them, but we gotta have them. We have 2 pumps, we got a generator, we got all sorts of things so if we don't have problems, we got a SCADA system, so that if there is a problem, lets Luke and the guys know that there is an issue, we can resolve it. Before, when it was first put in, it had a red light, and so if there was a problem, the red light would come on, and if nobody saw the red light, nobody knew there was a problem. But now we have more technology and stuff that can help us with that, so I feel comfortable, there's ways to deal with all this, and we're doing the best we can, and try to take care of the citizens.
Yeah, he felt very much more comfortable to talk to you than talking to the guys on the ground there. And there was a lot of changeover, but they were like, it's gonna be a big problem. One problem with the sewer system, there's gonna be geysers in all these houses, but he did feel a lot more confident talking to you, and so.
You gotta be
I
careful.
appreciate that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, All right,
So one thing we talked about a little bit was extending the city center zone a little farther down on the south side of 35 right here, and then also extending the cottage zone towards a 4-way stop from the church property this way. Anyone have any feelings about that one way or the other?
to me, it makes sense to extend that city center zone, like we talked about. And the reason for that is it's literally walking distance to everything, right? If and when we get commercial, which hopefully is not too far down the road, with a couple of these approved projects, but the city center zone, the commercial hub, if you want to call it that, of the city potentially will be right there. Anyone who's, living in that area will then be in walking distance of that resident or the commercial stuff and, the public facilities, the park and the rodeo grounds and everything that are right here that will literally be out their back door. So to me, it makes sense to go at least that far. I don't think it would make sense to go any further, but I don't know, maybe not. Then the cottage zone on that other side, it doesn't make sense to make that city center because it's already mostly full of houses anyway. And the likelihood of those being torn down, in the near future is probably pretty low. So those are my thoughts.
I agree.
I like it, I agree with that. That's,
You're good with that?
yeah, I see no downfall to that at all.
Okay, sounds good. All right, I don't know if there's anything else to discuss on that one.
All right, good stuff. All right, the next thing is Route 32 architecture. If you'll remember, go away.
You might go in.
Okay, I'll go.
If you'll remember,
No, not you. Not you.
you can't go anywhere. If you'll remember, they came, this was the West Harwood project next to, the storage units. If you'll remember, we approved this.
Yes.
Oh, they actually.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm probably stepping on your toes again, so why don't you just explain this?
You can.
You can stay.
I can talk enough.
Step while you walk.
Okay, so this is pretty easy, I think, but West Harwood, the Route 32 project, this is what we approved. These were the architectural plans we approved, this one and this one. This is for the project that's on 32, since we have this map. Page, right, yeah, right here. So, this is their architecturally got approved. They came back in and said, okay, we have some different architectural renderings. What do you think? Here they are. Go through all of these. I said, they look good. I like them, but they are different than what we approved. So we need to make sure the council is okay with them too. So, just want to make sure, probably need to approve these new plans if you are okay with the new look. It's a little bit different than what they have.
Do they meet the height and everything? They're the same as that?
Yeah, I will have
like
to.
the second one's better.
I kind of do.
Okay,
This
as long as they're not.
conceptual right now, they'll bring us, they'll submit
They will have to submit
actual plans to where we can see the heights.
building plans, right?
Building
They will submit building plans when they pull over.
Okay.
This is a conceptual idea of what they're wanting to do, but before they keep moving forward, we want to make sure that council is okay with this.
And I see 2 rows of buildings. The buildings in the back are also commercial?
Yeah.
And that's what they're still proposing to do,
Yeah, so
Right,
The
they,
project itself doesn't change, the layout
Just-
doesn't change,
building
it's
concept.
just what the buildings will look like is really all changed.
if you remember, there was a row of buildings on the front edge and then
Yeah.
kind of a street in between and then another row at the back.
Personally, I think I like the new look better, but we're under no obligation to approve it if we don't want to. We've already approved the other concept of the other architecture plan, so it's really kind of up to us. They're just saying, hey, what about this? And honestly, for me, this looks more Francis and that looks more Park City, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I agree with that assessment.
So I
I like
agree.
the
I like
elevation
the
changes
second.
in everything. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd love to see that on that corner, that style.
Yeah, I think it's much nicer.
Yeah.
Okay, who's the motion?
That was easy.
I'll
Oh.
move that we approve the new Route 32 architectural concept.
I'll second that.
I,
All right,
I,
all right, there they go, just like that.
easy. Okay. No problem, I guess.
Okay. Frontier Days, this is the best time of the, this is the best meeting of the year, huh? All right, so first, let's go to the the rodeo contract. You'll see that in Dropbox. Yep, so this is the same contract as in years past, the only difference is the cost. Otherwise, everything's the same as far as what's provided, how that looks. So basically, if you'll see on the first contract or agreement, that's the Saturday rodeo. So that's the full event, that, again, contract doesn't change from what it typically has been. It just goes up to 8,500. Does not include the prize money, as you see. So that again is the standard that it's always been. And then we pay the announcer separately as well. So that's not in the contract like it had been
was this
4 or 5 years ago.
Circle J's gonna hire the announcer?
They hired him, but we pay him. But I've already talked to him, so he's already planning on being here anyway. So I already hired him.
Oh, okay, well,
Technically.
I just didn't know if that was gonna be, $10,000 or something.
No, it's.
There's not a
it's-
fixed number here.
No, and it's, it will also be more just like everything else, but it's,
Okay.
I would anticipate $1,000 or so. I think we've paid him, I don't remember, 700 or something, but it will definitely go up, but it's,
Well, the answer,
yeah,
you don't need to go to 1,000, you need to say.
that's what I figured. So it will go up also, but that's not part of this contract. So we can have that approved if we need to, but that's not part of this contract. Again, everything's the same, and then Monday, same thing, it just doesn't have the prize money included, so that is what it is. If we want to continue using Circle J, 8,500 for Saturday, 6,000 for Monday. I would like to just approve this contract. They've treated us really, really good. They've done a really good job with the rodeo the last probably 10 or so years.
I was gonna say
It's been a
15 or so,
while.
yeah.
It's been a while, and they've done us a really, really good job, so I would prefer to keep using them.
I think they did a good job, everybody working in that.
Yeah, and I
They
don't
do a
go a
little.
lot outside this valley, but anyway, there you go. There's the rodeo contract. we'll need to.
Do we need a motion?
We'll need
or
a
do
vote
we
on the
just-
road, on the contract, and then we can talk the rest of it Frontier Days after.
I make a motion that we approve the agreement for Circle J
I'll second.
for Frontier Days.
Sam?
Aye.
I'm aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay, next part of Frontier Days. You'll see in your paperwork here on the table, staff has kind of gone through and broken up each kind of portion of the celebration and made assignments. These are not set in stone, but they are kind of how things have been and or were for those whose places you guys took. So, look that over. If there's something that you don't like or that you just refuse to do, tough.
Wow, okay.
The other thing that I would like to discuss while we're looking at this stuff is, I'm tossing around the idea of kind of going back to a committee type of a setting. And Katie actually had the idea of maybe having a couple of smaller committees that each council person would work with, if that makes sense. So we could break this up a couple different ways. We have rodeo committee that kind of focuses on rodeo and arena stuff that then Shanna and I could work with. But rather than us having to do all of that, we can kind of let them do the planning while we oversee it. And then, kind of have the same thing, maybe a smaller committee that looks at, some of the kid games and the activities that are outside the arena, but then could work with, say, Clayton and Sam, or the three of you, or whatever. Sam's really the guy that's gonna make or break this deal anyways.
Thanks a lot. No pressure.
Right. So anyway, I don't know if that's the right answer or not, but in some ways I would like to maybe take some of, the way I see it, the council needs to be very, very involved in Frontier Days. It's our event, it's not the staff's event. It's something that we, as a council, are putting on, for the benefit of the citizens. So it's something that we need to be involved in. And we need to make it our own. But sometimes it's a lot for one person to do each of these things, right? And so maybe the committee works, maybe it doesn't, but ultimately my goal would be that we're very involved as a council in the decision-making process and how things go and in that planning. But something to think about. We can decide on whether or not we want committees, but I really just want to drive that point home that it needs to be our event with the support of staff, but it needs to be our event. So any problems or questions with those assignments?
You've already told us no, okay?
We can't.
Well, I know, but I was mostly kidding.
Mostly kidding.
No, I'm good, and I've already met with, Canvas, is it Fiesta Days?
Yes.
With their committee,
Okay,
about the Queen contest, and we're all gonna go for that, so. And I have a date set. And like I told you last month, I talked to a committee lady, a lady that's gonna help me run it, so I'll be probably delivering them out during
Right.
the contest, so.
Right. Part of the deal, something you
So
gotta
I
do.
just need to get the stuff ordered, I'll get on that.
Perfect.
Was you all good with the saddle and stuff I got last year? Did
Yeah, I
you
think
see it? Did you
I
look
saw
at it? Okay. I can probably just get a ditto of that, and we won't have to buy the crowns again. I'll get them
'Cause
from
you
the
kept them,
queens. They still have them, but they're
Right.
gonna turn them in and give them to the new.
Right.
Yeah, the main one.
Good. No, I think that's good. The only thing that's not on here that I'll take care of is the Brandy Hill concert that's scheduled for Friday. Oh, and the horse clinic and the little trail competition that we did last year. Seems like That went over pretty well. We'll try to do that
Try
again.
to do that. Yeah, I thought that would be great.
Have we heard back from any of the sponsors? Is there still, letters we need to distribute? or-
I still have a couple of mine that I need to get out. I haven't been able to get in touch with a couple of those people.
I'm
But I
sure
don't know
we
if
could
there's-
do more.
Well, yeah, and sponsors is one of those things that's huge. I mean, this event is made possible by sponsors. I mean, it's super important. I'm terrible at it, but it's super important.
We do have, some sponsors that have come up already, and I've done this 2 years so far, and we always get the most sponsors the month or two before.
Okay.
So, they usually come out when it gets closer, but we do have 2 big sponsors already. High Star Ranch, they're sponsoring on the highest level, and so is Trish McMillan. She hasn't turned in her information yet, but she reached out to me and let me know that she will be sponsoring at the highest level again.
Oh, good.
So, so we've got those 2, plus we have some of the other sponsors. I think Camas Health Center came in. I feel like there's one more.
So far, everybody that I've dropped off a sponsorship letter to has committed. They just haven't. I mean, I know it's not actually a commitment until we get it, but they've all said absolutely we'll take care of it.
You have
Hopefully,
to keep doing
for sure,
Yeah,
for sure.
so we usually,
personal contact.
Yeah.
personal contact's good. We, sent out that first round of letters. We'll circle that back around come early June. And we'll touch base with everybody and make sure they know that we have deadlines. The program, getting banners, they have to get us things and let us know if they're gonna sponsor,
Okay.
um,
I didn't read
early.
that at all when I handed mine out,
Yeah,
so
it's okay.
I'll bug her.
Yeah, we.
All of the
the
people I
earlier the
sent you, they
better.
committed,
Can you send me a letter?
Sure.
Thank you,
You
Richard.
guys can go to anybody you want. Doesn't have to say-
Sure.
Yeah, anybody that you know.
We just need the letters to hand out, is all.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In fact, it would be great if we had some that we'd never spoken to in the past, Never hurts to expand that. If we
I don't know if we've ever asked White Knight, for example. I was thinking maybe we need to talk to Clayton and see if
We
he,
have,
we have,
but they have sponsored before.
but maybe with an employee on council, they'd be more willing to, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Any help we can get is great.
They always, seems like I always end up getting people, like the day after I send in the program to the printer, and then somebody comes in and I want a sponsor, can you get me in the program? And then it's a scramble to try to get it. So the earlier the better.
Suzanne, do we have a list of the sponsors that we handed out already? That the in the envelope for them?
I have a list.
I want to get that. I don't want to walk into some place and say, hey,
Yeah.
looky here, I need you to sponsor. They say, well, we already have it.
Just stop by and I'll give you a list.
Okay.
We'll give it a week here.
Maybe just email.
Yeah,
Well,
good.
would you want a paper copy or email? Or do you care?
I'll get an email. Save the paper, save the
I'll
trees.
just email it to
Just
everyone's
email it.
council,
Save it.
city email.
Just so I don't look like a goofball.
Right.
to somebody
I
else.
agree, yeah.
Like,
Well-
Jeremy's already been here. What are you doing here a second time?
Yeah, but you know what's so funny about that? With kids in the high school rodeo, they're doing sponsorships, one kid can go to the same place
Okay.
and get nothing, another kid can walk in and they'll
We gave a thousand
give,
bucks.
yeah,
Oh,
Yeah, it's true.
it's weird.
It's true. Okay. So I think everything will kind of, I think we want to stick with kind of the schedule that we've had in the past and try to keep that consistent. I think that's important as well. So I don't think we want to change up what we're doing too much unless someone has some really grand idea.
So what will the schedule be this year, do you think?
That was
Same
good.
as last
That was gonna be my next question. Are we doing Friday, Saturday catch on Sunday and finals on Monday?
So you'll have, I gotta look at the dates.
And do we have the band on Friday night? Or
Yeah,
Are we,
well, and you know, again, I guess we can change those things up if we feel like it's important. Mostly I guess I'm not stuck on the schedule itself, but what we're offering as events need to stay consistent. Where they fall can change if it needs to. The way it flows can change if we need to, but I think we stay consistent with what's going on, if we can. I just think that consistency helps. So my thought would be that the clinic would then be like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with the trail competition Friday, the Brendan Hill concert Friday night, rodeo Saturday, along with the horse games, the live music, things that we usually do on Saturday during the day, the bounce houses, the vendors, those types of things during Saturday day, breakfast Saturday morning. So basically just keeping Saturday the same, although if we could keep Saturday afternoon busier, it would be really good. I'm not sure how we do that, but that's I feel like our one hole
That's what I noticed last year.
is a kind of a lull in Saturday
I'm
afternoon.
part of the history group, and that seemed like there was a lull in the afternoon.
Yeah, and it's kind of been that way for several years.
You just want more people.
Right. Yeah, well, and you're coming back, right?
Oh, yeah.
Good, because that was awesome.
Are we still good to do the barrel race on Sunday?
I think we should.
Barrel race is coming back.
I think the last time I talked to her, she was still planning on.
Yeah, if they're willing, I think that worked out good. And then did we do the movie Sunday night, right? We
Yes,
still want to do that.
well, yeah.
It
but
seemed
they had
pretty
me-
well attended.
And I don't know, I didn't go to the movie. I was there Sunday night because I was gonna meet the vendors, or the catering trucks,
Oh, yeah.
but I never got the memo, they weren't coming.
Uh,
Is that, as part of the concessions, I know we talked about that last year.
Yeah.
Do we want, I have no clue, but I can research it, and reach out to trucks. Do we want to try and get some of those in to help relieve some of the stress off of the snack shack?
Sure.
Or,
I think it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I think, you know, food trucks could be fun. I don't think we want to have the concessions, the main, like, food available that night because it starts later. We're not starting until
Talking about Sunday.
Sunday,
Sunday night. We're not starting until dark.
okay.
So I think
But
it's
the-
good to have like maybe some popcorn
popcorn
and
and drinks.
candy and drinks. But we didn't have a lot of
I don't-
people.
the
want
The popcorn lady wasn't open Sunday, did she? I didn't see anybody
No,
there
well,
Sunday night.
the Lions Club had popcorn Sunday night.
Yes.
Oh, were they?
Yeah.
Okay, must have opened after I left.
They did, yeah. It was open a little bit later. So
But you're talking in general, do we want to have food trucks in general, right?
I don't think we want to do like concessions that night. I don't think we want to plan on a dinner.
No, I totally agree. If we have the trucks, then I won't plan on anything for Sunday.
Right.
But if we're not gonna have the trucks, I don't know if there was any complaints that there wasn't anything but the popcorn.
I think that we need drinks.
Yeah, you gotta have some.
Gotta have
water,
drinks. So
soda.
whether that's through the shack or not.
Yeah.
So I don't think we should do popcorn as the city because the Lions Club is going to do popcorn and we don't want to.
Exactly. If
Don't
they want to
step
do
on
it
the
on
side.
Yeah, we want them to be able, because it's usually a fundraiser for some school.
Right, and I'm fine with that, I'm just saying
We're
having
fine.
it available there.
Yeah,
That's
so
what's
I think for your side, the concessions would probably need candy and drinks that night. Maybe,
Okay,
but that'd be about it.
okay. 2 years ago, movie night, we did have candy, sodas, and water.
Mhm.
But we had probably a dozen people ask for food. If we were cooking or
I'm
something.
not opposed to doing it on a smaller scale. I mean, if you're there, it doesn't matter, right? It's just,
It doesn't get dark till 8 or 8:30.
Yeah, it's later, so
Big meal already.
you
Yeah,
don't
most
want
people,
someone, you don't want to.
it wasn't, no, it wasn't huge, but
Yeah.
can I have a hot dog? Can I have a burger? you know, that type of thing. Are you cooking cheeseburgers or anything like that?
Right.
And our answer was just emphatically no. But to me, like Jeremy said, if somebody's gonna be in the snack shack anyway, serving drinks and candy bars,
They might as
to,
well flip them a burger.
to fire up the griddle and have it hot and put a burger on it, wouldn't hurt.
I think you can do it. So my personal feeling is, and I don't care, we can decide, but my personal feeling is you can do it. You just wanna stay small
Yes.
and not cook too much and throw anything away.
Oh, no.
You know, if
No, no.
you can
Just
keep
cook
it
to
small
order,
scale,
maybe say, yeah, but it'll be
Yeah,
5
exactly.
minutes.
I think there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I mean, it's not gonna hurt.
The worst
And are
case,
you-
we spend a little propane and heat up the grill and we heat up one of the french fryers.
Yeah,
You know, if nobody buys, then that's all we're out.
You
But
know,
if
I
they
think
do buy, then obviously our profit will cover that.
I think that's fine.
Okay.
so our guy we had doing it last year, are we just not gonna go? I mean, I talked to him yesterday on the mail route.
We're about to have that discussion.
Okay, let's have that discussion.
But before we go there, yeah.
Yeah, so like for vendor booths, do they kind of solicit to want to be part of it, or do I need to reach out to them? Same thing with like the
Both.
Saturday entertainment, is there a certain go-to that we typically use for that, or?
So Saturday entertainment has kind of been, whoever's kind of been in charge of that has reached out to their type of groups or whatever. Byron, when he was the mayor, had some groups that he reached out to. There are some local groups, like Andy Bailey has a group. There's some of those deals that I think are fine we can do. Or if you have other ideas, you know, things we can fill with. We have tried in the past to fill it with, you know, school groups like the drill team or the little dancing girls, what, I can't remember what their, body motion.
Body motion and
Or things like that.
yeah,
You know, because that brings parents and things. I think any of those things are fine. But I don't know that we may have a list of who's been here in the past.
You can come talk to me. Last year, I think it was Mountain Town Music got us our music for Saturday.
And I think that would be a great partnership if we
But
could
it does
continue
cost,
that.
you know, we did get some extra grant money last year to help pay for that.
Right.
So that's, you know,
And
that's been a high priority for funding.
They'll supply the sound.
Yeah,
And
They
if
do.
you can get a grant, that's a great way to cover
Right.
the
yeah.
cost for that. And then the high school has a group that will perform music.
Yeah. So that's kind of my answer on that. You'll have to kind of work with Katie and then come up with some ideas as well, if you can. And we can, you know, you don't have to go everything alone. We can work together on some of this stuff too. Before we go too far down the road though, let's go to this, keep going on the schedule. So Sunday, the barrel race.
Okay.
Monday would be the kids' games, the junior rodeo, or not the kids, yeah, the kids, like the foot races. Did we do bounce houses for Monday also last year?
We did.
So we want to continue that. And then, the rodeo at 2, and that's the end of the deal. Didn't you have a cornhole deal?
No, Clinton, I was gonna bring that up.
oh,
No, Clayton.
Yeah.
Clayton's the one.
Somebody,
Clayton is the
yeah.
one, and that's something that I pointed to her for Saturday afternoon's lull.
Yeah.
We could have the cornhole tournament, schedule that in there somewhere. And it could even be a multi-day deal. It's
Sure.
gonna
Yeah.
bring people back, the contestants back.
Yep, so that, we can throw that in wherever it makes the most sense. I think that's fine.
We can talk to
But write that in under Clayton, I suppose,
Yeah.
at least to sort of.
He's the one that brought it up,
I
so
did
we're-
bring it up, so
Yeah.
we can give it to Clayton, because I don't want to do it, but,
her.
but I know who to get a hold of.
Oh, okay,
It was, yeah, it's Rod and Lori Atkinson,
okay.
so, cornhole.
So I think that's kind of the schedule of events. Anything else that I'm missing on that? Okay. Your question?
No, that was it. I didn't want to forget the cornhole.
Okay.
Can we do a water balloon toss with the kids? How wet do you think the parents will be?
Yeah, look, I mean, anything we can,
Something to,
anything we can have going on during that Sunday afternoon time is great.
Saturday.
yeah.
Or, yes, Saturday afternoon, sorry, the Saturday afternoon.
Face
we
painting.
have that wall. Yeah, I mean,
Maybe we
we
can
used to
even
get
do a
that
spray
sliding
can.
wall,
You don't want to
Yeah,
spray
or
can.
have a fire truck come out and just.
and if it's hot,
That'd be ugly.
It's
It's hot, snowing.
Yeah, it's
Well,
not
I guess
snowing.
we have
Yeah,
to
as
play
long as
that
it's
by
not
ear.
snowing, we can do water balloons.
Well,
Otherwise,
well,
it's
and,
snowman.
and some of those
It's
types,
expensive.
some of those types of things we can add. I don't think they really are something that we really have to
Just
get crazy about, but we can add those if somebody has some really good ideas that would work out for that. So,
Clayton just texted me and said, I'm watching and can't volunteer me for anything.
Ah,
We already did.
He's running the concession stand, he just, because he's not here.
that's right. Okay, so now, next, discussion is where Shannon was going, and that is with concessions. So Sam's gonna supervise the concessions and help to organize that, but that doesn't mean that we're cutting anyone out of that deal. So if we decide as a group that we want to continue to utilize the services of John and Paige Courtney, we can certainly do that. I think that's kind of a decision that we need to make. You know, anyone that's willing to help us do these types of events is valuable, and we want them to feel valuable.
Mhm.
Last thing I ever want to do is tell someone that we don't want their help. So, the one thing I will say with that is, and this isn't a dig on anyone, but because it's a city event with city money, we need to tighten up the controls just a little bit from what it was last year. But that's it.
And I'll add to that, yesterday when I talked to him, and I'm not bad mouthing him at all either, he wants more control. So that's why I was like,
Yeah,
no,
so that's something,
I don't think that they will probably be a good
And I'll-
enough fit. I don't think he's gonna do what we want, I think he told me, I want more control, I want to make this, so. And he said he would make a less of a venue or whatever, but he still, and I was like,
okay, well, I'm happy to have some conversations with them. But unless someone has some other compelling reason why not, I'm pretty stuck on, it's a city event with city money, which means it's the people's money, not ours. And it's a government entity, and there are rules and there are regulations that control how our money is used, and we have to follow those, because it's the people's money, and so there's not a lot of wiggle room there for me.
So did he say what he wanted more control over? Because I felt like last year, we pretty much just gave him the random,
yeah.
tell us what you want, and we'll support you.
He told me yesterday, he says, I would like to get some more restaurants in here, and I'll do it one night, and they'll do it one night, and I was like, we need the same people in there consistently, unless, he says, maybe not the Italian night, or not this, and I was like, well, who decided that anyway? And he said, well, I did, and I was like, how about we just stick to hamburgers, hot dogs, nacho, you know,
So that was the next conversation.
the normal rodeo food, so.
So me personally, I like the traditional type of rodeo
Mhm.
food. Not that the food was bad.
No, it
It's
was
just that
delicious.
a lot of the feedback that I've gotten from the public at large, not
Mhm.
just Francis City residents, is, what happened to the good old rodeo burger and fries, or what happened to the
Yeah.
hot dog and fries, or whatever. And so for me personally, I prefer that we stick to hamburger, cheeseburger, chicken strips, fries, those types of things. I also think that if we keep that menu fairly basic, it helps us to be more efficient.
Yes.
And efficiency is huge in that shack, because
Add ribs.
you can just get,
I thought of that too, but
I mean,
yeah, I think ribs should be it.
Yeah, maybe for Saturday night, we could have that, just.
Pardon me?
If you have families, so it makes the cost of the menu go up.
Right.
And if you have families like Jeremy that have 5 kids,
No, I agree.
well, and so that actually brings up another point for me personally, and some of us have had this conversation before, maybe not everybody, but for me personally, the goal for me is to have this rodeo, this event, pay for itself if it can. But the real goal is that we have an event that's community oriented, where families can come, have an enjoyable time, visit with their neighbors, go to the rodeo both nights, eat at the shack both days and nights, and spend their money here, but not feel like they can only come to one night or the other because it costs too much. Quite honestly, if this event cost the city a couple of $1,000s at the end of the deal every year, that's not ideal, it's not our goal, but I really don't care.
No, at least,
It's an event for the community that we're providing for that purpose, and if people can come and have a good time, and it not be super expensive, and it follows tradition, and has that, patriotic feel like we've been trying to build, that to me is what's important, not the money.
Yeah.
So the money is great, but it's not my goal. I want people to come and enjoy it and have a good time. Knock on wood. So that's my goal personally. Hopefully that's everyone's goal, but it may not be. And that's okay, but that's kind of how I see it. So.
Oh,
I kinda
and
like-
John did also mention he doesn't want to do the breakfast. And I was like,
The
oh.
breakfast is huge.
The
and we've got
breakfast
to
is
do
huge,
that.
and he was like, but everybody complained that it wasn't pancakes, and I'm like, everybody comes here for pancakes. You
Right.
can make pancakes at home. I can't eat pancakes outside at home and have somebody else cook them.
Right.
Pancakes at Frontier Days is the bomb, so.
Well, and the thing of it is it's the tradition, and that's more important.
Yeah,
than
and
what
that,
it
I said,
is.
it's pancakes, bacon, and some scrambled eggs, and that's what you
Right.
expect, and,
And to me, that's the important part, is that it's the
yeah,
tradition that we've
so
done.
I think we need to bring that back.
Yes,
instead
certainly.
of-
we can find somebody else to handle breakfast. If they want to do
Yeah,
lunch
yeah.
and dinner,
Sure.
then we can probably
And then
find someone
that
else to handle.
So maybe what we
Yeah.
should do is you and I should meet with them
Meet with John and see.
and have.
And he said he'd be willing to come in, I said, I'll bring it up at city council and get you guys a meeting with the mayor and whatever.
Yeah, because again, I certainly don't want to discourage and or offend or tell anyone who's willing to help and volunteer their time.
Oh,
I
definitely,
don't want to run them off. That is not my goal in any way.
no,
But it's
And
still a
it
city event,
was-
so it's still gotta be kind of our
Yeah.
way to some degree.
and I totally agree, it was absolutely delicious, everything that they cooked was phenomenal, but it wasn't rodeo. I mean,
So for me,
It just-
tradition is huge,
yeah.
and I think,
traditional.
but again, we don't want to run them off.
No.
Y'all can help. Okay, so maybe me and you ought to sit down with maybe me, you and Clayton.
Sure.
What, I don't care, but maybe we
No,
ought to sit
yeah,
down.
sure.
Sure.
I
And
think,
determine if that's something they can work with or not.
yeah, my schedule obviously is fairly wide open, but I know he's off on Mondays.
Okay, I can do Mondays.
Um,
Mornings are usually better for me,
Okay,
but we can work it out.
So one huge thing about concessions that we haven't brought up yet is volunteers. We run that shop on volunteers.
Yes,
And we can talk more about it when we sit down with Courtney's or whoever, but I feel like it might be good to have, we're doing the committees, have someone just over volunteers at the shack.
at the shack.
Yeah, that's huge, because it takes a
Courtney
lot
did that
of.
last year, didn't she?
Kind of, she did part of it, Heather did part, I did
That's right,
part.
Heather did part.
We just got to the last week before, and we still,
The whole staff ended up doing it.
we all
It's-
ended up trying to find volunteers for it. It was a crunch at the end. And we really, especially that last week, do not have time to be trying to find volunteers. We have a million other things going on that week.
Yep, while I appreciate everything staff does and has done, it's not their job to find volunteers, so
No, I agree.
keep that in mind. But it's not necessarily only your job either. So we'll work that out as well. Because that is huge, it takes a lot of help to keep that side running. All right, anything else Frontier Days wise that we need to discuss now? Well, from here on out, we'll have it on the agenda each month, just to update, talk about anything new, any changes. Some days may be longer discussion, some days.
Have
maybe
you talked to
not.
the flag bearers, or they?
The flag bearers are planning on it, as far as I know. Kathy's working on some, she's been in touch with Katie,
Okay, good,
working on some, God, what am I trying to say? Sponsors.
okay.
And, so yeah, we've got
Okay.
that going on. I guess the last thing before we close this discussion is, do we want to look at some committees? Or do we want to just keep it how we've been doing it and have the council But-
I'm all for the committees. I'm all for
I am too, if we can get
If we can
people.
get, yeah.
If we can get people to fill the
Right. So I know for a fact, I've spoken to a couple people who said if there was a committee, they would help. But that's more the rodeo side. So I don't know on the other things, but I know I can get 3 or 4 people for the arena stuff to help us there. And do we want to combine all of the arena stuff under one committee?
I think so.
I mean, to me, that makes sense.
Yeah. That makes more sense to me than this
Yeah,
split it up, so,
I-
yeah, I think so.
So, okay, if we want to work on committees, then how many do we want to have? 1 for the arena stuff and 1 for the other stuff? Is that enough? 2 separate committees that kind of, and they don't need to be big, 3 or 4 people is plenty, and then the committees can
Does
work.
the shack
with
need
us.
its own?
I would say make sessions as shack is one committee.
Yeah, I think the shack maybe. needs
Whoever's
its own
on the parties,
committee.
whoever does the breakfast, whoever's gonna be on the volunteers, Sam, Forrest, and Clayton.
So do we want 3 full committees?
Yeah,
Maybe
I
one for the rodeo, one for concessions, and one for.
Everything else.
Everything else.
So I'll work on that committee. And you and I can just talk about who they are, and if you don't like it, we can.
I
adjust
like
or whatever.
everybody.
And then who wants to work on those other 2? Do you want to work on your?
Sure,
concessions
I'll,
committee?
I'll try and gather.
And then I
People
guess
to
I
help.
want to, you and Clayton want to work together to try to build a committee for that other stuff.
Yeah, and what does that other stuff entail?
So that'll be everything that's on your list there, so like the kids, vendors, the entertainment on Saturday. So basically everything outside the arena that happens on.
The posters and the
Bouncy houses.
Everything that happens outside the arena on Saturday. Well, really, all the whole time, but if that's the case, do we want to move junior rodeo under you and Shanna?
yeah,
Probably.
maybe we should take that off of Clint and put
Right.
that on
I
to
think
you.
so. So you can scratch junior rodeo, and we'll put that in the. So you'll have everything outside the arena, we'll have everything inside.
Perfect.
You and
Clayton.
Clayton. Clayton, he's gonna get, I think we ought to give everything to Clayton.
I do too.
Listen, he's watching.
He's got concession.
You got that queen contest too, Clayton.
He will be. He'll be.
Yeah,
Yeah, Clayton would be good.
Yeah, he would be a good.
that's what you get for not being,
That's right. All right,
taking
So-
a vacation.
so let's work on that so that by next month we can have those committees established, and then we'll just have, my only thing with committees is that we'll need to have a meeting so that everyone understands that they're a committee spending public money, and so everything has to go through a council member before any, you have a budget, you have to stay within the
No
budget,
expenditures.
nothing happens without the approval of the council, period.
That lady right there.
Suzanne, she's mean, we'll have to tell
That's right.
her.
All right, good,
Don't cross Suzanne.
thank you.
Or rock those Susan.
Next, Scott.
All right, so we did the, tank project, put the bid tabulation up there, we had 4 bidders. Bids ranged from 1.764 million to 1.998 million. FX Construction is the low bidder. I haven't worked with them directly in the past, I know of their work.
I don't know where you want me to go.
Back towards the top, so.
So bidder 1.
They're one, yeah.
Okay.
So they do good work, so our recommendation is to award the project to FX Construction.
Where are they out of?
Relatively high, but they've done a lot of tanks over in Jordan now.
Okay.
Trying to think of right to their list of where they've done some close around here, but that's mainly what they do is a lot of tanks, that's what they specialize in.
Oh, okay.
So,
I like to keep stuff, in
Sure,
town and all
locally,
that,
okay.
but he was way, way high, so,
yeah, they're a couple $100,000 for empty contractors.
yeah.
So yeah, the bids were close. We had two that were pretty tight, within $30,000 of each other. So I feel like we got a good bit.
Perfect. Any other questions or discussion on that? Would be excellent. So when's the projection to start construction? As soon as the snow,
So, no.
as soon as the river stops running?
Like,
Yeah, luckily the snow hasn't accumulated on that side of the hill to melt it off pretty good.
Right.
But, you know, we're hoping to get going so we can get done shortly.
just point of clarification, this is the reservoir above the existing well that we
Yeah.
drilled. It's not the one for the group, the 75 homes.
They are contributing to this. If you remember, they were supposed to drill or build their own tank,
Right.
but we agreed to have them contribute to this one.
Oh, okay, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah,
Because we don't really need the third.
they're contributing $730,000 for this thing. So.
Got it.
Okay. That's good.
How many gallon is the existing one?
The existing tanks,
Yeah, the little guy.
there's two 100,000 gallon tanks there, and then there's a 500,000 gallon and another 100,000 that Woodland that we have, but this is a 750,000 gallon tank.
Remind me, so with the 700 and whatever from Foothills of Francis Gate, is the rest city funds, or was there some contribution outside of the well from the Stewart Ranch development?
They gave us the property.
Okay, that's what I just want to make sure I understood that.
Yeah, they gave us the property to build on, as part of their contribution. Plus, you know, they gave us the annexation fees and stuff like that.
Right, sure. Okay, so the 700 is,
The rest will come from the
The rest will
city,
come from the city.
city water fund and from annexation fees. Things like that.
perfect. That takes quite a burden off of us, actually. That's good.
Mhm.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to award this bid.
To FX Construction.
Whoever you decide, I guess you can do whatever you want.
Oh, no, okay. I thought you were making a motion to.
No, I'm not making the motion, I'll entertain it though.
Oh, I'll make a motion that we award the contract to FX Construction.
Second. Sam?
Aye.
All right, that's that. Okay, any council reports? Any other reports?
Of course there is.
She's a busy girl, of course.
Yeah, of course, we always got stuff. First of all, I just want to let you know that you might have run Clayton off this council.
He said he
You're
quit.
doing too much stuff.
You can't quit.
You can't quit. That's not
You
an
might
option.
not come home. He said, you guys, he said, Jeremy said this meeting was gonna be a light meeting. I think you told Ben so the council could volunteer me for everything. Maybe I just won't come home.
Wow.
Where is he?
Where are you? Where are you, Clayton? Text me.
Dang snowflake.
Jeez. That's getting pretty rough.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's just joking. So, first up, there is a Utah Land Use Institute Spring Conference. Not many of you have heard of it. I haven't forwarded it on yet, but I can if you're interested. It's April 6th and 7th. They're going to be talking about a lot of things with land use, anything with the legislative updates, how to preserve open space. I'm trying to remember all the different topics, but there were a lot of really good ones. I'm going to go to the conference.
As am I.
Jeremy will also go. It's in St. George. They are offering a Zoom option, so if anyone is interested in a 1.5-day conference and training, I can send you the link, the registration information if you're interested in watching it on Zoom. I'm going to send it to Planning Commission as well.
April 6th and 7th.
April 6th and 7th, it's a Thursday, Friday.
Yeah. Should we get all land use stuff?
All land use, all this stuff. So one thing that I want to spend a little bit of time on is,
We're running out of time.
I know, I said a little.
You said 7:30 today.
I jinxed it. Let's just say I jinxed it. I'm really bad at estimating time. This won't take a lot of time, but a little bit of time to think about. The restaurant tax grant is opened up right now. This is the one from the county that we apply for every year. There's a small percentage of restaurant sales tax that comes back as a grant. Last year, we were awarded $15,000 for marketing for Frontier Days. I think in prior years, one year we didn't get anything, one year we were awarded money for the tents and the tables and chairs that we have that we use for Frontier Days. So pretty much whatever we do, I think we did get money for soccer fields before as well, which brings people in for the big Park City Cups and for different tournaments. So whatever we do has to be something that brings people to the county. That's what they're looking for, is bringing people in to visit the restaurants. It's kind of their goal. So do we want to apply for marketing for Frontier Days again? Is there something else that we need for Frontier Days, or something else we need that will bring people into the county? This is due by March 31st, so.
You said it's opened up where it doesn't have to just be marketing now, right?
Right, before they were reluctant to approve capital projects, but they said that they'll consider it now. So last year, just to fill you in, I applied for a few different things. I applied for marketing, was the main one, because I knew that they like to spend money on marketing. So marketing was the main one, and then I also asked for money for concerts, for us to do the Saturday and Monday daytime concerts. And I asked for money to buy the movie equipment that we have. They would not fund anything but marketing. Last year, they gave us the money for marketing. I said, oh, this is more than we asked for marketing. Can we use some of this money for the movie or the concerts? And they said, no. So it's always hard to read what they're going to do. This year, it sounded like they might go more, they might be interested in capital assets. So the people on the committee are restaurant owners for the most part. So they're, of course, trying to think of ways to bring people in.
So, I mean, the marketing is big. Marketing is very important for the event, as you know. And last year, because of that, we were able to have some pretty sophisticated radio ads on some actual.
Yeah, we did a whole radio, social media thing. We have hired a marketing consultant. We were able to advertise at some different rodeos around the state, like some in Wasatch County, Camas.
I think that's very valuable, so I think that should be part of what we ask for, at least.
Yeah.
So we could just do the same thing we did last year and just ask for money for marketing. Is there anything else that you think of that we could throw in there, or just leave it at marketing since that seems to be like, do what they like?
I can't think of any capital assets necessarily. Right off, yeah.
The, last year, we were able to use one of the easy ups that we had stored in the back that we set up outside because we set up that barbecue. A couple of instances where the wind came up, and I thought that was going to end up in the soccer fields. So I looked at it last year. I don't know how much it would cost, but if we just came off the backside of that roof and extended out about 8 feet, put a little patio cover over there. As far as capital.
On that, or
On the east side there, where we had the barbecue and the fryers and stuff set up.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be open to looking.
If, I don't know, we can, being in construction and doing it, it's not gonna be too terribly expensive. I mean, I don't wanna rip the whole roof off and change the roof line. But obviously with that, Scott has to be involved because we gotta worry about snow line. Well, it's gonna be built on there and stay.
Gotta get building permits.
Gotta get a building permit.
Structural engineering.
Well, and we gotta think about too, so maybe that's something we could actually
I don't know if
put
it's
in
any,
that grant, because that concession stand needs some improvement anyway.
The only hesitation I have is with the restaurant tax people.
they're gonna be mad.
They're not gonna want us to approve what.
Our restaurant.
Our
Yeah,
restaurant.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, maybe they would, but, well, I don't know.
I know grants are very hard to word properly to get them passed through,
It is,
and you're right, it would take,
just trying to think
Some
how I
fancy
should
language.
finagle that, but.
I think I think our main focus should be marketing. But if we could work something like that in, I think that might be valuable too.
We'll look into, some kind of covering. And maybe they'll appreciate it, being restaurant owners, that we don't want to be out in all the elements
right.
grilling.
And realistically, if you put it in the grant, that it's a once a year usage of it, basically, unless we start renting that thing out to restaurants or
Right.
vendors or something, but, it's not like we're gonna be in competition with them every weekend.
But you might be able to, you might be able to somehow word it so that it's, available for
We could,
races and special events and things that bring people to the community. I don't know.
Well, that's something
It
that,
can be used.
well, yeah, that's something we did talk about last year. It floated really high, but nothing's ever been done. I don't know why we can't, as a city, advertise that for some events or
So
some.
we certainly can, and it is available, we just
Yeah.
don't really make it
Right.
large and known, I guess.
For a fee and, so, okay, that was my,
no, I
as
think
far
that's a
as,
very.
when I heard the word
I
capital,
thought about
that was,
Yeah,
Or, so maybe the covering and or just some improvements to that building.
it does indicate.
or is there a tent that, just better? Is there some-
We could,
Like an industrial event tent of some kind.
yeah, I was just looking at every year, setting it up, tearing it down, storage,
Sure.
where we're gonna put it.
They already, looking at you already have a lot to set
Yeah.
up right before, so they probably don't need one more until.
Yeah. And the
Okay,
anchoring system for it, it's kind of asphalt dirt in that area. What are you gonna, putting those stakes in, like the big tents, driving the stakes into the grass is one thing, but,
we could put in some big like anchor bolts. or something.
right, we'd have to concrete those in.
Concrete,
Would they do money for like firing or renting, like something from Diamond Rental or something that brings up and they install
I think they wanted more assets, it's something that's.
Would they fund-
You.
The bounce houses. I mean, I don't know that we want to own them dang things anyway, but
Maybe bounce houses. We could put it in, we could
Well, they
always
can
put it
say
in.
no,
Yeah.
They can say that.
yeah,
they can say no, marketing only or whatever.
sure.
Cool.
Okay.
Anything else?
There's a whole bunch of changes that were approved at the legislature in the last general session. I'm not gonna go through all of them, but how we change subdivisions will drastically, how we approve subdivisions will drastically change. More than likely, I've gotta go through it with Brad, our attorney, but you might not even see subdivisions anymore as the council members. It might be something that planning commission, and Scott handle, just handle to do it. We'll see. I've got to work out. Sometimes it's hard to read these laws and figure out the implications. Referendums is another big one where before, if you pass something and then the citizens decided they didn't like it, they could sign a petition, get a referendum, and put it on the ballot
Like they did that,
with HARD, or they tried to do it with HARD.
was it hard?
I think they tried to do it with
No,
HARD,
it
but they weren't
was the
successful.
one by
It's the one that by Glades.
Trillies.
Yeah.
Oh, Trilby's, yeah.
One by
On
somebody.
top.
Yeah, okay.
Well, anyway, that's harder now. You have to have, the council approves it with 2/3 of majority vote. It will happen. There's no
I
referendum.
can't do it.
You can't do a referendum. So that's one major change. Anyway, so you'll just look forward to some fun code text amendments for us trying to be in compliance with state law. That's it for me.
Excellent. Scott?
The only thing I really had was the, tank. We are working with, Foothills and Francis Gate, concerned about flooding, trying to make sure they're doing what we can so we don't have issues. And other places we don't want to kind of watch and things like that, so.
Okay.
trying to keep up with stone, and like we don't have to do.
Can I add something with that? I appreciate the city with the snow in my circle. It's been really good having a loader come every week or two and deal with us with a lake in front of my driveway.
Circles are always the hardest to deal with.
The DeGrays, just I guess south of me or west of me, he just throws all the snow on top of the drainage. And after you guys came the very next day, he was pushing it right. I'm like, hey, you can't do that. Like and so he was concerned, said, hey, you need to reach out to the city and have them take care of this, but that's not, other than that, it's been really good, so it's appreciated.
Yeah, it's hard. I just drove through Wild Bill on the way here. Somebody had just, in their driveway, pushed out a mountain of snow, so the snow stuck out about 4 feet.
Yeah, well, we've got problems with that anyway, people pushing into the road, so.
And across the road, and leave it at
Yeah, across the road is okay if you clean it up, but into the road is definitely not okay.
Yeah.
Don't leave it in.
Pushing the dirt to my.
Well, I mean, if they leave a trail across
Right.
the road.
And then it becomes hard and then it
Yeah.
makes our snow.
That's true.
Okay. All right, I got a couple of things for mayor reports. We had a complete breakdown in our IT support over the last couple of weeks, to the point where we basically didn't have, well, that's not true. Our IT support just was subpar, extremely subpar. So we reached out to 3 separate companies for proposals on IT. It's minimum money, plus it's already in the budget. One of those proposals was by leaps and bounds better than the other 2 to provide IT support for the city. They'll secure all of our data, keep all of our computers running, keep all of our IT stuff up to date. It's much more secure than it will be much more secure than it's ever been, and the support will be much higher than it's ever been for just about exactly the same money that's already in the budget. So we've changed companies from Executech to Alakazam. I didn't seek your approval because of it's in the budget. And it's
I like the name.
less than what than the max I'm allowed to approve, but I want you to know about it. It's a monthly service that we pay for that service. It's right now it's $1,200 a month, which is in line with what we were paying, but the goal is to get down to $900 a month by consolidating some of our stuff and changing some of the operations that we currently have with our IT. So for the first little while, it may be $1,200 a month, but we're hoping that in the next couple of months, it'll be down to $900, which again is all within the budget, just something to be aware of. The personnel manual is being updated. A lot of changes and updates have been made there. It should be ready to go here in the next little bit, with the addition of the wage study. And I've gotten 2 proposals for that. We talked about this last month. This individual, Melissa Cotter with On Track Solutions, is who I'm going to use. And her estimation is $2,960, so just under that $3,000 limit. And that should give us a pay scale, job descriptions, and update that portion of our personnel manual. And that will include also the council, not job description, but pay rates and things like that, so that we kind of have an idea of what's out there. And have that third party looking at it, so we don't have anybody that can say, well, the city staff looked at the wage study themselves and decided that they need to make $250,000 a year. Of course they did. Why wouldn't they? So having the third party eliminates any of those types of problems. So that will be happening soon. the county through, what's called the Transportation Sales Tax Grant. I think I talked about this a little bit in the last meeting as well, but this is through the COG, and each city now is just told what we're going to get each year based on, this is how they describe it. It's based on a 3-year average of the third quarter tax collected and the 3-year average of the second quarter tax percentages. That's not the quarter of the year, but the quarter of percent of the taxes that are collected within the county. So our award for this year is $34,648 to be used for transportation projects, so road repairs, things like that. So we'll work with Scott to kind of determine where that money needs to be spent, and that can be something we can do in the next few months or as summer kind of comes along. So anyway, just so you're aware of that, it's nice that we just know now we don't have to apply for the grant. It's just based on the tax base, and they just say, here's what you can do, so that's kind of nice. And then the last thing I had is flooding. I know that's on everyone's mind. I've been thinking about it as well. I reached out to the county. They're working on a plan of their own to include sandbags and some things. I don't know the details of that at all right now, but in talking to some of the county council members, there'll be details about that in the COG meeting on the 21st of this month. So hopefully I'll have some updates on that. So we are thinking about it. We've had meetings with the irrigation companies to talk about ditches and working together to make sure things are flowing when things start to melt, and mitigating those problems as they come up. So flooding is definitely on our mind. It's something we're looking toward. Depending on what the county plan is, we may decide to at least, I don't know, we may decide to put some sand and sandbags here to make them available if we get an emergency and need them. I don't know about that. It'll kind of depend on what the county's got going. Go from there, but so if you talk to people and they're wondering if the city's thinking about flooding and how we're going to deal with those problems, we are, and we'll have more details soon. So other than that, I think that's all I got.
Sounds good.
All right. That's it.
Motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
That's our form.
Yep.